Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
Good evening. They found the problem in the computer system, the system that was meant to control the Columbia's mission into space. They've pinpointed the problem, but they haven't fixed it yet. And no one appears to be quite certain yet how long it will take to fix. So the mission could be launched by 10 to 7 Eastern Time Sunday morning. That, however, is the very earliest possible launch time. It still depends on straightening out the computers. There are people who know how to deal with computers. We'll be talking to a couple of them this evening. We'll be talking to them about the space shuttle in particular, and on a broader scale, about the way that computers seem to be insinuating their way into all of our lives in one guise or another. We all seem to need them these days, but the Columbia Space Shuttle quite literally can't function without them. Here's my colleague, Hugh Downs, in Houston.
Computers are absolutely necessary to fly a spacecraft like the shuttle. Nothing that's done aboard in the way of control directly controls the spacecraft. It's all done through computers. And in that way, it's the most sophisticated and most complex system that has been put into space yet. And I asked Edward Shevers, who is the Chief of Data Services here at the Johnson Space Flight Center, in what way these were the most complex.
Because of the 5 computers that we have, each of which is effectively equivalent to an airborne version of an IBM 360.
And it's the data from those 5 computers that NASA scientists today began analyzing, searching for the answer they need by midday tomorrow for a Sunday launch. A spacecraft like the shuttle is so dependent on computers that a complete malfunction would be an absolute nightmare.
Okay, pitch up. We're up. Got a mass alarm, computer light, it's number 2.
A computer malfunction did occur on the first test flight of the Space Shuttle Enterprise. But because of the backup systems, computer number 2 was safely shut down and the mission proceeded.
Okay, she's flying good. 250, starting flare.
That's how the system is supposed to work. The 4 primary computers talk to each other, and if they think that one of their number is wrong, they will outvote and disconnect it. The backup computer listens, ready to take over if the primaries fail. This morning, none of the computers failed on the Columbia. The problem was more basic than that. They didn't talk to each other. 2 of the computers were sending signals to the backup computer too soon. The backup saw the mistake. 1/25th of a second later, when the backup expected that information, it didn't get it. In this computer system, 2 strikes and you're out. And the backup would not listen to those computers any longer. Thus, the system failed.
Unfortunately, I don't know a heck of a lot about the resolution to the problem. We tried a whole bunch of things this morning during the count in an attempt to resolve it, and were unsuccessful.
NASA scientists say they are making good progress isolating the problem, a problem that must be solved.
The computers fly the shuttle at all times, and the shuttle will not fly without the computers.
The space age created this era of high-speed computers, and high-speed computers are going to be necessary to all its future progress. We're right now coming to you live from inside the cockpit of a 1G trainer here at Johnson Space Center, and I'm again with Ed Shevers, who's computer expert. And I want to ask, first off, if there's anything new, Ed, since that conference about what went wrong this morning.
Well, since this morning, the spacecraft software division and IBM have been analyzing the data that were taken from the computers. They do know basically how the computers failed, but what we don't know right now is why they failed.
What's the time frame now? Between now and tomorrow noon, that deadline, do you think it's likely that they'll be able to trace the difficulty and get it corrected?
Yes, what we're doing tonight is they are continuing the analysis to try and prove the theories that we have. And we are also running tests in the various labs here at the site. If the theories are held up and if the tests prove out what we think, then we see no reason why we cannot pick up the count probably tomorrow night and go for the Sunday launch.
Are you at all apprehensive about the possibility of any other problems that might crop up in the interim?
We don't know of any right now, but of course there could be some.
Everything seems to be okay otherwise?
Yes.
Right. What, are we overreaching ourselves? This is a philosophic question, but I wonder, are we getting too dependent on cybernetic devices? Might we abdicate our responsibility as humans, in other words, and work for the machines?
No, I don't think so. I believe the shuttle itself is so complex, and there is so many things going on that we need the computers to help the crew. The crew always has the capability to override what the computers do, but they still have to go through the computers to do anything.
In one way, it simplifies, because on this instrument panel, this screen, for example, each of these three screens probably represents what would be a myriad instruments if they had to each be set in, because they get readouts on here from the computers about various conditions,
Yes.
don't they?
Yes.
Any word on how the astronauts feel, Crippen and Young, about this delay, or are their confidence still there?
Oh, I'm sure that they're as disappointed as the rest of us are, but they are test pilots and they are used to this kind of thing.
I think Gene Cernan said it best this morning. He said, "We've waited this long, we might as well wait a little longer and do it right."
That's true, yes.
Thank you, Ed Shevers. Back to you, Ted.
And thank you, Hugh Downs. In a moment, more on computers and what they do for and to the rest of us.
Here's to good friends. Tonight is kind of
Hey, whoa, camp's back there.
Guys, after 3 days and nothing but fish, I vote for a change of the menu. Besides, it's our last night. It's my boat.
All right, so where are we going?
I know a guy down here that serves up a really good steak and a terrific Lowenbrow.
When you want the taste of a truly great American beer, tonight, let it be Lowenbrow.
You guys have any luck today? Not until now.
Let it be Lowenbrow.
Sears is coming through with one of our biggest nationally advertised sales ever on dress-up clothes. All 25% off now. Pastel and print dresses for her that are the image of spring. Plus handsome suits, slacks, dress shirts, and separates to reflect a young man's style. Colorful fashions and sizes for toddlers to teens. But hurry, after April 11th, the 25% savings will disappear like magic. You can count on Sears.
Hey, Jan, dinner. Well, it's about time.
Life as an American war hero, and it's still serving to this day. The legendary Jeep vehicle. 40 years, over 1 million owners, 10 billion miles, taking its place in every sector of American life. And now with the highest gas mileage of any American-made four-wheeler, Jeep CJ. What vehicle has better withstood the ultimate test of a legend, the test of time?
Now, every Jeep line is covered by a 10% price rollback direct from American Motors.
Con, and I'll be the guest on Friday. Coming up next on your TV.
Today's computer problem at Cape Canaveral was distressing, perhaps, but for most Americans, not totally surprising. As a society, we've become used to computer problems of one kind or another, just as we've become used to computers. We're so used to them, in fact, that few of us stop to think of the extent to which they now play a role in our everyday lives. A role that shows every sign of growing even bigger. We have two reports. The first from Bettina Gregory.
You can't do the simplest things today without using a computer. You can't cash a personal check. You can't even make a phone call without linking into the telephone company's computer. And if you go to the supermarket, the chances are good a computer will check out your groceries, mechanically assisted by a human being. In some areas, computers have replaced humankind. In Washington, the subway system is run by computer. True, motormen ride in the cabs, but only as a backup to this computerized service. In the airline industry, computers will reserve your seat on a plane. And make no mistake, when you take off, it's the computers who tell air traffic controllers how to get you safely to your destination. Computers have revolutionized the personal credit card industry. Credit card billing would be a lot harder to do without the computer. And of course, the computer provides the inevitable excuse for mistakes in your bills. Humans often feel like Don Quixote tilting at windmills when it comes to fighting the almighty computer. Miracles of modern medical diagnosis are made possible by computers, and academic research is more comprehensive. Computers have had an enormous impact on television journalism. ABC News researchers have millions of hours of film and videotape right at their fingertips. Film of an elephant? There are 223 entries in the ABC News library. An elephant at a circus? We have 20 such entries. But if you want an elephant with a rider, the computer says we have only one such film. It's a small computer that puts the letters on your television screen, and another one that creates special effects, which were once too expensive and time-consuming to produce before the age of the computer. Since Wall Street started using computers, volume on the big board doubled and redoubled to as much as 70 million shares a day. The government certainly uses computers. When you pay your taxes, IRS computers will audit the returns. The federal government also uses computers to track down runaway husbands on welfare. And now the Reagan administration wants to cut down the number of welfare cheats by putting a computer cross-check on everyone who gets government help. That's going too far, says the American Civil Liberties Union. But for the most part, computers have become such a way of life that many people believe they don't invade their privacy. That's because in America today, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is inevitably linked to a computer. Bettina Gregory, ABC News, New York.
This is Ken Kashiwahara. Personal computers are being welcomed in schools and in businesses and in homes without any mention of invasion of privacy. In fact, assembly lines are literally grinding them out, attempting to keep up with demand. Personal computers have become popular because of their size and their cost. They are compact because their tiny memory banks are made out of even tinier microchips. A basic unit can be had for as little as $1,500. Schools use the computers not only to teach children, but to teach them about computers. Educators at this junior high school say students are going out into a computer world and should know something about it. Small businesses have latched on to the personal computer boom, using the devices to map out financial plans and to print memos and letters, all at the touch of a button. And the personal computer is beginning to invade the home. In this house, the solar power is controlled and regulated by a computer. Here, the computer is used to entertain. Video games are programmed and the battle is waged. And Fred Wilkinson says he uses his home computer to store information and to learn.
It's a daily event. There isn't a day that goes by that either through a magazine or through the keyboard or through a program or through talking to somebody that I don't pick up more and more information. And it's a growing experience. I see that in myself, and I see it in other people who I deal with that started out much the same way I have.
The personal computer boom has been a boom to one company in particular. It has become the Big Apple in this land of high technology. Since the Apple Computer Company was founded 5 years ago, its sales have skyrocketed from about $100,000 to more than $100 million. Stephen Jobs helped build the first Apple computer in his garage. He is now 26 years old and is chairman of the board. And he sees his computer's future as the future of mankind.
This is a 21st century bicycle that amplifies a certain intellectual ability that man has. And I think that after this process has come to maturity, the effects that it's going to have on society are actually going to far outstrip even those that the petrochemical revolution has had.
But these computers are not necessarily simply innocent playthings of the future. Some people feel threatened by them. Some think they tend to dehumanize, and others fear they may eventually take over their jobs.
This is Ken Kashiwahara, ABC News, San Francisco.
But at least it still hasn't learned how to say, back to you, Ted.
Back to you, Ted.
I'll have my computer talk to you in a moment. And in a moment, we'll talk live with the chairman of the Apple Computer Company and with a writer who warns of the dangers that computers pose to society.
Starting now, only one traveler's check offers you exclusive new services that protect more than just your money, because lots of things can go wrong on a vacation.
We have no money, no traveler's checks, no credit cards, nothing.
Shouldn't we get back to the hotel?
We just came from there.
Do we know anybody here?
Not a soul. Lots of things can go wrong on a vacation. That's why American Express introduces the best vacation protection of any traveler's check. Now, if you lose your credit cards and ID along with your traveler's checks, American Express will help you cancel your credit cards, issue you a temporary ID, even cash a check for up to $200. And if the loss affects your travel plans, you'll have our travel service at your service 24 hours a day. Only American Express offers all this extra protection at no extra cost. So be sure you ask for American Express traveler's checks. Now they protect more than just your money. Now they help protect your vacation.
The gill straps aren't really moving. They're being robbed.
Dad, aren't the gill straps in Toledo?
I think they're being robbed. Should we call the police?
Hey, smart neighbors. If they don't tell the cops now, the gill straps will have to tell them later. You know what it takes to stop a crime? Your help. And your neighbors. Find out more. Write to Box 6600 Rockville, Maryland, and help take a bite out of crime.
Ah, Mr. Cadwell. How are you? Have a seat. Tell me, if your son broke your favorite fishing rod, would you, A, be understanding?
We'll just catch shorter.
People will try anything to trim the high cost of cooling and heating. Anything. But here's the best place to start. The GE Executive Weathertron Heat Pump for extra efficient heating and cooling. It's designed to help you afford the comfort you want and need, because saving electricity means saving money. There are lots of ways you can try to save money, but do it right. See your GE dealer now. Save money on central air and heating. Check the yellow pages for your nearest GE dealer.
Before Scott's blends family grass seed, all the seed has to pass inspection.
Here's my sample. Yes, sir.
We reject tons because of weeds or empty seeds. We only want plump, vigorous seed that grows beautiful lawns, because we have to pass the toughest inspection. Yours. Family seed from Scott's, for a lawn that satisfies the toughest customers.
An example of sort of the role that computers are now playing in our lives, in the sense that that computer that malfunctioned was really as critical to the success of the shuttle as the thrust of the boosters that were going to lift it up in the air. And in essence, both the boosters and the computer were really performing the same type of function. Both were amplifying an inherent ability that humans have. In other words, no more could even a small collection of people run the shuttle than they could jump up in the air several thousand feet in the atmosphere.
All right, there is a sense, though, that many of us have who really don't understand how computers work or what they do for us or to us, that we are becoming controlled by the computers. Any danger of that happening?
Well, as you know, the product we manufacture, many people see it for the first time and they don't think it's a computer. It's about 12 pounds. You can throw it out the window if the relationship isn't going so well. And I think if you look at sort of the process of the technological revolution that we're all in, it's a process of taking very centralized things and making them very democratic, if you will, very individualized, making them affordable by individuals for a small collection of tasks, if you will, sort of from the passenger train to the Volkswagen.
All right, we heard you talking on tape a moment ago about the bicycle of the 21st century.
Right.
What were you talking about?
Well, actually, I read a survey in Scientific American in the early 70s, and what this survey had done was it measured the efficiency of locomotion for various species of things on the planet, birds, fish, dogs, and it ranked them. And it turned out that the condor won. The condor took the least amount of energy to get from point A to point B, and man sort of came in with a rather unimpressive showing about a third of the way down the list. But someone at that magazine had the insight to test the efficiency of man riding a bicycle. And man riding a bicycle was twice as good as the condor, all the way off the end of the list. And it really illustrated man's ability as a tool maker to fashion a tool to amplify an inherent ability that he has. And that's really exactly what we feel we're doing. We're really sort of blazing the trails for the 21st century bicycle, but to amplify a slightly different inherent ability that man has, the ability of a certain part of intelligence. Right now we're at the mechanical part of intelligence, where one of these devices can free a person from many of the drudgeries of life and allow really humans to do what they do best, which is to work on the conceptual level, to work on the creative level.
All right, David Burnham, you have some concerns about computers, and I guess in part they have to do with the invasion of privacy, and they do invade our privacy, do they not?
They certainly do, and we have many examples from our history. Mr. Jobs said that the computer amplified the ability of man. That's true, but man, history tells us, has done good things, and he's also done bad things. The Census Bureau, for example, used computerized punch cards to help locate the Japanese Americans in 1941 when they were all, so many of them were arrested on the West Coast.
All right, I keep borrowing this phrase from the NRA, you know, guns don't kill people, people kill people. Computers don't do that to people. People using computers do that. Isn't the computer in and of itself a neutral tool that can be used for good or evil?
It is, and men use guns to kill people, and men use guns to hunt animals. The question is our society alert enough to understand the power of the computer and to turn it toward the good things, or are there people and occasions when we use this tool for a bad purpose?
All right, Steve Jobs, I realize this is your baby and you've made a career out of it, but you're also something of a philosopher. Do you see the inherent possibility of bad coming out of all of this?
Well, I think one of the things you really have to look at is you have to go watch some kids using these things. As an example, 97% of the high school students that graduate from Minnesota have hands-on experience with these personal computers, learning how to use them. We call this computer literacy. They're actually happening in, in the elementary schools now. And you go watch kids interact with these computers, and what you find is far from something quite harmful. In effect, what you see is an instantaneous reflection of a part of themselves, the creative part of themselves being expressed. And it's just very, very difficult to see these kids using this tool and realizing that they're going to have these tools available for the rest of their lives, to portray that as something very harmful. It's actually something quite democratic.
All right, but I mean, the government, and I think Mr. Burnham was leading us in this direction, the government has the capacity, by using computers, to get all kinds of information on us that we're really not even aware that they have. Isn't that dangerous?
Well, I think the best protection against something like that is a very literate public, and in this case, computer literate. And I think you're actually seeing that happen right now. In the personal computer area, again, computers that people can afford themselves, we've already reached approximately 1 in every 1,000 households in the United States. And I think over the next 5 or 6 years, that figure will be 1 in 10. Ultimately, it will be 1 in 1. And I think the feeling of computer literacy among the populace is the thing that, for me at least, gives me the most comfort, that that centralized intelligence will have the least effect on our lives without us knowing it.
Mr. Burnham, are you comforted by that thought, that somehow we will all have the capacity to defend ourselves against computers by owning and being able to control computers?
Well, I wonder whether the individual citizen alone is any match, say, for the United States Army, when a few years ago it began surveillance programs of hundreds of thousands of people who were lawfully voicing their opposition to the war in Vietnam. I wonder whether the individual citizen can control the Army, or whether the individual citizen can control the Census Bureau if it decides to break the rules and make information available which the citizen has given to it.
All right, but on balance, are you for them or against them?
I think there's a tremendous danger that the public is not aware of enough at this moment. I think if we are aware that perhaps we can use them for the good things that Mr. Jobs sees in them.
All right, computer literacy, you're both in favor of that, and I thank you both very much for being with us. A final note now on tonight's topic. Let's face it, some people love computers, some people fear computers, and some people, well, here's correspondent Hughes Rudd.
I expect nothing less than such impudent behavior from hardware, even hardware as basic as a tack hammer, much less a computer. Neither do I expect anything but sassiness from software, partly, no doubt, because I haven't the slightest idea what software is. At my house, we do not sit around discussing software, any more than we sit around after dinner chatting about Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, partly, no doubt, because I haven't the slightest idea what Heisenberg's uncertainty principle is, which seems fitting enough. Now, I do know about computers, however. It's the computers which keep sending me the books I haven't ordered from the book club. It's the computers which keep telling me my payments are overdue for objects I've never heard of, and it's computers which keep bumping me off of airlines. Now, lately, news has come in about a new American computer which has learned how to read and write Chinese, and this is considered a great leap forward, although I must say that it strikes me as very unlikely that I would ever interface with a Chinese-speaking computer, unless, of course, the Chinese come up with a book club and manage to get my name on their sucker list. Now, among all the other problems with computers is the fact that it just isn't much fun to watch them, because they don't seem to be doing anything. Computer people think that computers are doing something, which is why computer people get just as merry as grigs when they interface with computers, but not yours truly. I have lived all these years in a generation which has never really understood the ballpoint pen, much less the space shuttle, but I'm convinced I could continue to live in sublime ignorance without computers. I think I could even live without ballpoint pens.
In a moment, the last word on today's news.
Tim Braley, brake quality inspector. This is who we are and what we do at General Motors.
Quality is the number one priority at our plant, because the brake is the most, as far as I'm concerned, the most vital part in the car. It's got to work every time. I feel that my job's got a lot of responsibility. If one bad brake got out, I'd feel terrible. I really would. I am definitely not going to let that happen. I have a lot of pride in my job.
General Motors, people building transportation to serve people.
New Purina 100. New Purina 100.
Introducing new Purina 100, the best-tasting cat foods Purina puts in a can. They're 100% nutritious, 100% delicious, so juicy, so tender, they taste like a million.
100. New Purina 100.
Purina calls it 100, but it tastes like a million.
Meet a revolution in menswear, the Hager washable suit. It never needs dry cleaning because even the coat's made to stand machine washing in warm water. Plus, take the tumbles of a dryer's permanent press cycle and come out looking like this. For convenience, economy, plus the comfort of magic stretch fabric. Get the Hager suit. That's not afraid of the washer.
It's tailored with the natural look and feel of today's Dacron.
There's still one Baltimore Olds dealer that will give you a cash rebate with every new Omega, Cutlass, 88, 98, or Toronado bought or leased. Metro Olds in Owings Mills. Yes, Metro Olds has extended rebates to the new 81s. You can even factory order a new Olds and get a rebate when it's delivered. And our rebates on remaining 1980s have never been higher. See Metro Olds on Reisterstown Road, 5 miles north of the Beltway in Owings Mills.
Now, the last word on today's news and a first look at tomorrow. Doctors said today that President Reagan will probably return to the White House tomorrow, barring complications in his recovery. The White House said, however, Mr. Reagan will not be able to go to California later this month for his daughter's wedding or take a planned trip to Mexico. The head of the Senate Budget Committee, Republican Peter Domenici, warned today that President Reagan's economic program is in jeopardy following yesterday's committee vote rejecting the 1982 Reagan budget. The budget director, David Stockman, said the vote was only a tactical setback. Poland's parliament tonight approved strict emergency measures, including a 2-month ban on strikes after Prime Minister Wojciech Jaruzelski threatened to resign if the measures weren't accepted. The independent union Solidarity said the action would not prevent it from striking if necessary. In Washington state, the Mount St. Helens volcano blew ash and steam over 15,000 feet in the air today. Super hot gases from the volcano could melt snow on the mountain and flood the valley below it. And a follow-up to our recent broadcast on the annual slaughter of baby seals in Canada. During this year's event, a number of Prince Edward Islanders broke the law by taking the seals off the ice and hiding them at isolated farms. Those seals are now being returned to freedom. Looking ahead to the weekend, as we noted, President Reagan may leave the hospital tomorrow. ABC News will have live coverage of his return to the White House. Secretary of State Haig returns to Washington from his tour of the Middle East and Europe. And the earliest possible new launch time for the space shuttle is 6:50 a.m. Eastern Time Sunday. ABC News will carry the shuttle launching live when it does take place. There will be details on these and other stories on the ABC Weekend News and on World News Tonight Sunday. That's our report for tonight. This is Ted Koppel in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
Nightline has been a presentation of ABC News.
Space shuttle coverage with former astronaut Jack Schmidt Monday on Good Morning America.
Are you a victim of sticker shock? The cure is at your Fiat dealer now. A special $500 buyer's bonus on the 80 Fiat Strada.
It's here. It's the original Stereo Discounter's 6th annual stereo video show and sale. Today through Monday at the Timonium Fairground Exhibition Hall. Don't miss it.
Does your car knock and ping and knock? What a pain. Get Mobil Super Unleaded Gas with higher octane.
Women and Pill Abuse, Monday morning at 9.